Well, I think we should talk about, let's stay with the LA theme and talk about Jared Verse because the
Okay.
season he's having, I felt like we've talked about it a little bit, Trevor, but it's statistically because he only has 4.5 sacks. I think I don't even pay attention to counting stats, so I had to like look this up before. I think PFF's got him with six, I believe you guys have, if I remember correctly. And so 4.5 sacks, is that going to keep voters from choosing him for defensive rookie of the year? I mean, his teammate Braden Fisk has more sacks as leading rookies in sacks right now. I think with six, and Fisk has had a good season for sure. He's been solid. I think there's some up and down elements to his game, but it does tend to be a statistical based award. But I mean, Jared Verse's tape is one of the wildest experiences I've had watching anybody in the NFL, especially a rookie. Trevor. I mean, he is just killing everybody, like physically killing everybody.
How did who
Almost
who gets to the NFL and gets stronger immediately?
It's unbelievable. And hardly anybody in the NFL wins purely off physical dominance. Like it's just very rare. I mean, you go back to like a Reggie White, and that's who Jared Verse sort of reminds me of, to be honest, is the throwback comp. But you go back to somebody like him and you're like, okay, this guy physically manhandled people like constantly in the NFL. And you look at his numbers and where he's at on the all-time sacks, and you're like, okay, that's a unicorn type of player at a time where there wasn't this level playing field in terms of play strength amongst players, in terms of physical ability amongst players. Jared Verse, and well, obviously the big question with him, because it's such an outlier, will be whether this can be sustainable for a longer period of time as teams get tape on him and kind of know, okay, this is what we can expect from him. Every week you turn on the tape, he is just blowing people up at the line of scrimmage. And he's not even like the biggest guy. Like that's the thing. It's so
No.
crazy. It's pad level, it's hand placement, and it's just unrelenting passion to just bury everybody that he's across from. The Saints tried absolutely everything. I mean, including blocking him with tight end, which I have no idea why they thought that would work, but several times throughout the game, they left him one-on-one with the tight end. Those guys just went for a ride every single play. I mean, he was just throwing them off his body. Then when it was Trevor Penning several times in the game, Fuaga I think got it once or twice, but Penning, he was just bulldozing Penning back into the pocket, threw him on the ground on one play, like just physically. There was a twist, and they slide Shane Lemieux over to pick him up, and Lemieux's there. He picks him up great. He hits Shane Lemieux so hard, Trevor. Both of Lemieux's feet are off the ground at the point of impact. An offensive lineman with both feet off the ground. That it just does not happen. I mean, and even when these guys are like in his way, okay, ball's getting out, the toll he is exacting physically on everybody that plays him. I mean, Trevor Penning looked like he wanted to stop playing by the end of the game. And Trevor Penning is a bully on the field.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable how physical he's been. And this season, the stats bear it out. 55 pressures, third in the NFL. Amongst defensive lineman edge, or amongst any players, I guess. 28 stops this season, which is tied for 12th amongst all defensive linemen and edge defenders. That is compounded by the fact, Trevor, that we've talked about this. And this is actually improved, and it's still very bad. He has 17 missed tackles this season, the third worst in the NFL. No other defensive lineman or edge defender in the top 20 in missed tackles this season. His missed tackle rate is a 27.4%, which is just way too high. So that's sort of leads me to the question I have with him is like, I don't want to over index that part of the evaluation, but if there's any argument against him for defensive rookie of the year, which there is not in my opinion, but if there's any argument against him for that, it's just that, well, tackling's a part of the game and you got to do it better. And if he did it better, he'd have 9, 10 sacks, and he'd probably be leading the league or be in that conversation at the top of the league for stops amongst T-line and edge defenders, because the vast majority of these come behind the line of scrimmage where he's missing tackles. And so some of that comes back to I think he isn't the greatest athlete, and he can over pursue in space and be a little reckless, and then he has a hard time stopping and moving in a new direction when that happens. So I don't think that's a massive part of the evaluation, in my opinion, like to the point where I would ignore the fact that he's literally in the tier 1 in terms of disruption at this position in the league. I don't know that I would ignore the missed tackles necessarily, but that's really like the only thing that's been a weakness so far this season. He's just been an unbelievable force, and it's really hard for teams to account for such a unique skill set and how they game plan. You would love to be able to do certain things like leave your tight end on a guy like this, but your tight end's just going to get obliterated against him. So you have to sort of account for that, and he's going to end up changing the way that teams approach what they want to do offensively against the Rams because he's just that dominant of a player.
The rep that you were talking about, where was it Lemieux who he hit? It was the rep where I don't know. I did not know. I watched this multiple times because I didn't really know what was going on. It looked like to me, you know how when guards, obviously, like they'll make their initial block, and then if there's not enough rushers, like if it's not a hat on a hat, if it's not 5 rushers and 5 offensive linemen, say it's like 4 or 3 guys rushing, the guards or the center or whoever, he'll look for work. That's what we call it, right? And if there's nobody directly in front of him, they'll look for work. And we always love the play where Cole Kubelik does this when he talks about it on Twitter. He calls it a full slab, right? Where they will look and they'll be like, oh, okay, you're engaged with this offensive lineman. Boom! And he just absolutely decleats whoever the defensive lineman is and blows him out of the play. So he's giving him a full slab. Jared Verse did that against an O-lineman. He fought fire with fire. And I don't know if you remember in particular, I don't even think it was really a stunt play. It didn't look like it. Or if it was a stunt play, then whoever was playing tackle on that play where Jared Verse was supposed to be the crasher, the tackle was sort of slow to go around and be the looper. So it almost didn't even look like it was a designed stunt. It almost just looked like Jared Verse was like, all right, I got to hit somebody, and then just absolutely destroys whoever the right guard was on that play. And then the tackle right in front of him just goes, oh, okay, I guess I'm looping around now. I guess it's what we're doing here. So it was,
there is a play where he bulldozed the guy so bad. He takes him right past the quarterback. He doesn't get off the block. He just takes him right past the quarterback. I'm just like, he just wants to kill people out here. Like, he's not even interested in the sacks.
Pound for pound, he might already be the strongest defensive end in the NFL. Like you obviously,
he certainly plays like it.
You've got some defensive linemen who are, like 280, 285. And I shouldn't say like defensive linemen. I should just say edge rushers. But you even have some edge rushers who are like 280, 285, like the guys like that. Jared Verse is what, 255, 260 probably. Maybe, and he is folding Trevor Penning like a lawn chair.
Yeah,
he is making offensive linemen fly with both feet off the turf. Who does that? He's one of the only people who does that. So he is incredible. He's having an unbelievable year. And sort of the way that I set it up, it's wild to me that Jared Verse won with power at the college level. And I think it was fair to say, just like you said, how many guys just win with power, really, at the NFL level? And it's not that Jared Verse didn't have some other pass rush moves, but he's got a little bit shorter arms. He's got a little bit shorter when it comes to length. And so a lot of what he did was that power profile. He was a power rusher, a bull rush type of a rusher, a speed to power type of a guy. And it was devastating at the college level. I don't want to take anything away from him. I liked him a lot. He was a top 20 player for me, top 15 player for me. But like you said, very few guys come into the NFL level and just win off strength. There's very few pass rushers that win off just being great athletes. You normally have to have more. And not to say that Jared Verse can't or doesn't have more, but his power is so devastating. He's already a tier 2 edge rusher in the league.
Yeah. I think it will be really interesting, Trevor, to see who's better long-term, he or Latu, who's really started to come on, because they do. I mean, Latu's got the power, not the power like Verse does. I don't know if anybody does, to be honest, but I think he does have a bevy of moves. So it's going to, long-term, I still think this is actually pretty up in the air. The way Verse has come into the NFL is one of the more shocking things that I can remember, where guys becomes more physically dominant than he was in college. And he was physically dominant in college, but the way he's playing in the NFL, it's like he has everything to prove, and he's just angry at the world every single snap. And I think this is true about he and McConkey, to be honest. Like, guys who play 100% every single snap, guys who never take a route off, who never take a rep off. Like, I do think there's something to be said for that. Guys with just absolutely no chill factor to the game at all. And so I'm really interested to see where it goes long term with Verse. I think he does have some moves to get off power too. Like, he's got the ability to long arm and then kind of slip around the edge. He's got that rip move, and he can definitely snatch the outside arm and pull guys through and get clean. So there's definitely other elements to his game, but he does not have traditionally really good bend as an outside rusher, nor does he have I think the best change of direction at his position. It's fine, it's good, and he's so explosive off the snap sometimes that I think it's going to open things up for him. But I just wonder if his skill set can continue this insane upward trajectory even over time when guys adjust to, okay, he's going to go power every time or most of the time. Like, I do wonder how that plays out. But this year, no question, he's been the best.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.